Hello friends, here we are with the Medium's Harvest, and we are here turning on also the audio transmission, the broadcast through Kardec Radio. You know, we have an app and people have the privilege of listening to it directly at Kardec Radio, and it can be the website kardecradio.com. By the way, did you know that at Kardec Radio we have a new website? And in this new website, you can go straight to the podcasts. More than 3,000 podcasts throughout more than 6 years of Kardec Radio with different hosts, different programs, all covering many different parts of the Spiritist teachings. So it's an opportunity for all of us to go there to learn more about Spiritism, right? We're studying the Medium's Harvest. Let us not forget, when we study Medium's Harvest, we're studying a book that is, I would consider, a textbook. A textbook means, you know what I mean. It means that this book follows not only the teachings of the foundation of Spiritism, but it expands as a science. Meaning there are concepts here, practical tools that can be used and help us not only in our daily lives, but in the mediumistic practice. As Emmanuel says in the preface written on January 1st, 1961, he says quite clearly, that he's writing this book to pay a tribute to the Medium's book. And Spiritism, like a tree, is spreading its branches, its flowers, fruits, and essences in all directions. And that was like 1961. And look at us now. Emmanuel was not wrong. So it's very important that every time we read, look at the date of these teachings. Why are we saying this? Because there are people around the world who have been saying, but you know, this was written in the 19th century, at the beginning of the 20th century, mid-20th century. But science, traditional science, has been bringing teachings for centuries. And no scientist says that Socrates was wrong, that Aristotle was wrong, right? And all the most ancient wise men and women of science have said. So why do we in Spiritism are going to label outdated for truths that are immortal? Scientific evidence of our immortality, and not only that we are living, but the laws that rule our lives. Right, friends? So we begin today on this special day of Christmas. Today is Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, friends. And if you're listening to this on demand, maybe even if you listen to this during summertime, it's Christmas every day. It shall be Christmas, because it's not only a day. It's a day that we stop to reflect our connection with the Christ consciousness. It's not only the Spirit, but what He came to bring to us. But of course, our eternal gratitude to this Spirit that volunteered to take care of us, to tutor us, to guide us, to care for us. And how about studying our part? On Christmas Day, we're going to study the continuation of yesterday. Yesterday was all about Christ on Christmas Eve, chapter 35. He came to teach us charity and tolerance. And as Emmanuel says, tolerance is the foundation of progress. Now, so fitting for today as Christmas Day, what about our part? And that's exactly what Emmanuel is going to tell us on chapter 36 of the Medium's Harvest. The Medium's Harvest was written in 1960, published in 1961. But the more we study about traditional science, material science, the more we understand the depth of the teachings of Spiritism, or I would say the science of the spirits, because they are always at the vanguard of humanity's teachings. And today we're going to study about our part. No, yeah, your part, my part, everybody's part. And sometimes people doubt, what is my part, Vanessa? Who am I? You know the answer, right? You are a child of God. What can I say? You are a child of God. You reincarnated to learn to do good, and we can't not do it. Yes. What can I say? But you are a child of God. And Emmanuel is going to begin this chapter, your part, chapter 36 of the Medium's Harvest, based on item 233 of the Medium's book. And 233 is about chapter 21 in the Medium's book, when Kardec discusses the influence of the surroundings of the medium. You know, when people say, oh my gosh, it's too hard. Because you know, in my family, where I live, in my community, in my society, and I remember one day in 2006, I was in Brazil visiting Divaldo Franco. He was in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais. And we were at a dinner table with hosts, and Divaldo turned to me and said, Vanessa, how do you think in Baltimore? I used to live in Baltimore. And I said, what do you mean? How do I think in Baltimore? Divaldo, if you think I shouldn't be there, just tell me and I will leave. And this was like 11 years ago. And then he smiled and said, no, no, no. I'm just telling you that if it is that hard, the surrounding, and you're able to make it happen, keep going. I said, wow. It's exactly what Emmanuel is going to discuss today. How much of the surroundings play a role on us, and how can we excuse ourselves for not doing something because of the surroundings? Huh? Shall we say it? Because I know many people are like, Vanessa, I don't do Spiritism in English in the United States because what if the people in my profession got to know? They're going to think I'm crazy. What if? And if people in Brazil or in France, like Allan Kardec, had given such excuses, we wouldn't be here tonight. Now think about the generations to come that are depending on us. Oh yeah. Not because we are, I'm going to say for myself, not because I am this, that, and that, but just because we're interdependent and they are waiting for us to open a pathway so they can come and continue. So, this is what Kardec discloses that inspired Emmanuel to write a message. Chapter 21, item 233. Let me read this for us. A serious meeting is therefore not always sufficient for receiving elevated communications. There are individuals who never smile, and yet their hearts could not be pure. More than anything else, it is the heart that attracts good spirits. No moral condition impedes spirit communications per se, but if our moral conditions are bad, we will communicate with those who are similar to us, who will not waste the opportunity to deceive us and who will almost always stimulate our prejudices. We can thus see the enormous influence of the surroundings upon the nature of intelligent communications. However, this influence does not exert itself as some persons formerly thought it did when the spirit world was still unknown, unlike nowadays, and before the most decisive experiences had cleared up doubts about it. When the communications agree with the way that the participants normally see things, it is not because their opinions have been reflected in the spirit of the medium like in a mirror, but because the spirits are sympathetic with them, whether for good or evil, and they share in the same opinions. This is proven by the fact that if they could attract other spirits to communicate with them, instead of those who customarily surround them, the same mediums would speak in much different styles and would say things quite removed from their normal opinions and convictions. In sum, the conditions of the surroundings will be better as there is greater moral homogeneity for the good, purer and more elevated sentiments, and a more sincere desire to learn without preconceived ideas. Of course, here the surroundings are talking about our inner, our mental atmosphere, the one we're creating for the meeting. So it's not like, oh, I'm serious. And I know people, I've seen it. They go to mediumistic meetings and they are serious. They leave, they drink a glass of wine. I'm so sorry. That is so incoherent. As much as when we leave a mediumistic meeting, we start bad-mouthing somebody. Or we leave a mediumistic meeting and we are intolerant to people. Seriously. And this is what they are saying. Surroundings here would be translated as our mental atmosphere. So if during the week I'm bringing a certain quality of thoughts and feelings, what can I expect to attract? Or how am my part is going to contribute to that meeting? So let's see what Emmanuel says, okay? Let's see it. Emmanuel says on chapter 36, your part of the Medium's Harvest, the book. This book again is coming to life in English. It's not published yet. In Portuguese, Seara dos Médiuns. Public meeting held on May 20th, 1960, based on item 233 of the Medium's book. Emmanuel then wrote the following through Chico Xavier. All mediumistic production is the sum of the spiritual messenger, plus the medium and the influences of the environment. Partaking on the theme of interchange, your part in the equation is inevitable. In every sector of labor, the work always returns the change of what we offer. Life counts on you and what you do to it. The field gives news from the farmer. No matter how respectable the medium may be, do not demand that the medium alone furnishes the solution to your needs, because the Creator made the creation in such a way that all creatures interdepend in any construction, however simple they may be. If among the ingredients of a cake we add a small spoon of ash and dozens of other spoons of pure and noble material, the strange element will disrupt the whole piece, even when prepared in a golden vase. Paganini played a single string, but the key and the arm, the easel, and the harmonic top of the violin supported the melody. Titian painted admirably at 99 years of age. However, he did not dispense the palette, the brushes, the canvas, and the paints in the proper condition. An electrician will bring light, banishing the darkness of any part. However, he will need resources with which he can capture, energize, distribute, and retain force. So, do not say that only ill faith causes disaster when disaster strikes. Sloppiness is cruelty with a different mask. If a malefactor deliberately places a stone on the railroad bed to derail the train, or if the unprepared security guard forgets the rock on the rail, the effect is always the same. If you want the immaculate soup, bring a clean plate to the serving utensil. Mediums and mediumship will be able to give you great services, but in order to act with security and correctedness in the service that you need, they also need security and correction on your part, on our part. Friends, with all the humility in our hearts, I know we're still to conquer humility. We know, right? If we ask this question to ourselves, do we recognize the need to correct ourselves, to work more securely in our spiritual practice, especially the mediumistic practice? Do we recognize it? Because if the answer for us is, no, but I'm doing my best, but this is my best, if I am being defensive, justifying that this is the best, we're in trouble. Because humility is always going to answer yes. There is always an extra mile. There is always something else I could do. What is it? Maybe it's to learn to speak better things about people. Maybe it's about watching less programs during the week that are not beneficial to us in any way. Maybe it's about browsing or surfing the internet more healthily. Maybe it's about eating healthily. Maybe it's gonna be about being more caring to people in our lives. What is it that we could do to correct ourselves, to correct our mental atmosphere, the production, our part, so when we join the spiritual group, when we join the mediumistic team, we can be giving more of ourselves, not more in quantity, but quality. Because I've seen people who sit at a mediumistic table, and they think, oh, that medium is more experienced, or that director, that counselor. They need to really prepare themselves. But me, who am I? I'm just learning. And when I'm learning, I don't need to do that much. No. If you enter the surgery room, the same rules apply to you. Okay? So there is a spirit named Viana de Carvalho. He was a physician. He came through Divaldo Franco and wrote books, amongst them Mediums and Mediumship, Médiuns e Mediunidade. And one of the chapters he says, A mediumistic meeting is like a surgical room. There is one leader, okay? So the first thing we need to observe is one leader. We participate in a team. Everybody in the surgery room needs to be on the same page. If one takes the scalpel, the other one doesn't take the scalpel. Okay, so one is the anesthetist, the other is the surgeon, the other is the assistant to the surgeon, the other may be the assistant to the anesthetist, the other may be a nurse A, B, C, D, I don't know. Each one has a role, and they are on the same page. They don't clash, they are in harmony, and they are present, they are mindful. And what else? They need to use gloves, all of them. They need to make it everything sterile. So for everybody who is in a mediumistic group, the rules are the same. The rules apply to everyone, no exception whatsoever, because as Kardec says in the book Genesis, if there is one single person, one element that is discordant, it disrupts the harmony, vibratorily speaking. The same says Emmanuel here. Like a cake, I can have a beautiful golden vase and mix the recipe. But if I add one single spoon of ash, it's gonna spoil the cake. Or if I miss one spoon of baking soda, the cake's not gonna grow. So it tells us about the importance of your part and my part. There is no excuse like, but I don't know, but I'm learning. You may be learning, but mentally speaking, you are as responsible for the harmony of the group as everybody else. If there is no maturity at that level, that person cannot be there. That's why the spiritual of Virginia, when we were transitioning to a greater commitment, the mentors gave the team time to reassure themselves regarding the commitment. And they put rules. Starting day X, if you want to continue, rule number 1, ba. Rule number 2, da. Rule number 3, no exception whatsoever. And people voluntarily. So when the day came in, those who showed up were the ones that were signing their commitment for the next phase. Those who didn't come back for that specific thing, they were asked to write kind of a letter to the coordinator explaining why they felt they couldn't go on, which is fine. Better this way than being forced and not feeling we're mature. So instead of the coordinator saying, shoo, 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 because that doesn't work. It has to come from within. People need to evaluate. Do I want to commit to another love? Our part is essential. Even if Divaldo Franklin is in a mediumistic meeting, if there is no vibratory condition, Kardec says in the medium's book, the condition for good spirits to show up is not seriousness. It's about vibratory conditions. Not this external seriousness, but the deep commitment. And the kindness towards everybody. Because the good spirits are seen. If, for example, there is one thought about mistrust or lack of trust regarding a member, will not be able to move steadily. So I need to conquer good feelings, good thoughts regarding each person in the group. And if it's becoming impossible, get out. But do not stay. Because I cannot compromise the group, the progress of the plans of the spirits. It's a surgical room, as Viana de Carvalho said through Divaldo Franco. And surgery is serious. We're talking about lives. Not only the lives of the beyond that are going to be rescued, but the lives of the mediums. Did you know that if the mediumistic meeting is not cohesive enough vibratorily, it can affect the health of the mediums? Because when the mediums are there, they are susceptible to the, what we call the current that is holding up. Yes, supporting mediums are vital, but at the end of the day, everybody plays a supporting medium. Everyone. And if we, by any chance, we have a discordant thought, which we forgive in ourselves, but then I need to go home and fix and say, oh my, what can I do to think better things about this person? Because, for example, if a counselor starts counseling a spirit, and I am at that moment supporting vibratorily, but instead of supporting, I'm judging what the counselor's saying. Oh, here he comes with that approach again. Da-da-dee-da-da-da. I am disrupting the harmony of the meeting. Or another example. A medium, a speaking medium, is channeling, okay, a spirit. And somebody, or myself, let's say I'm not the speaking medium at the time, and I'm thinking, oh, I know that person is faking it. This is animism. What a waste. Those thoughts that I am producing, though they are not spoken, are creating difficult conditions, and they may be opening doors for that medium not to be the best protection during that trance. And if tomorrow they get sick, we are co-responsible. This is how grave it is. So that's why we don't play mediumship. Never. We never play it. We work with it. We educate it. We practice it. So Emmanuel says here, all mediumistic production, all, no exception. That's how he begins. All meaning no exception. It's like a rule. They are the sum of the spirits that communicate, the medium, and the influence. So if a message is not clear enough, not necessarily the medium is at fault. Maybe the environment. Maybe our part in that surrounding. And he says, partaking on the theme of interchange, your part in the equation is inevitable. So we need to remind everybody who is in a mediumistic team, you, what you think and what you feel, not only now, but during your week, is playing a role here. Are you ready for the commitment? But that's hard, I agree. That's hard. That's why we don't tell anybody, go, practice mediumship. It's wonderful. No, it's not wonderful. It's responsibility. We don't throw responsibility on people's face. Right? But it's responsibility. When we read Kardec, it's clear-cut. The seriousness, but the deep seriousness that he had. The good heart. Right? So Teresa Castro is asking if I've ever read Diary of a Counselor. I haven't read it. I've heard about it, Teresa. I've heard about it, but I haven't read it yet. Okay, I will. Thank you for the reminder. I will. I cannot emit any opinion, and I'll say one of the reasons why. Because there's so much in the books that are reliable that I cannot say about those that I don't know yet. But I've heard good things about this book, and I'll do my homework. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, there is a short book about counseling that we translated and Divaldo Franco published, and that book was written by Uncle Nilson Pereira, who worked as the counselor of the spirits that came through Divaldo Franco. He co-founded the Mission of the Way, and he was a wonderful counselor, like really heart person, and very, I would say, quote-unquote, successful as a counselor. And that short book summarizes the ins and outs of good spirit counseling. So that book is a good measure for us if you want a quick overview about spirit counseling, okay? Now, he says here, when there is sloppiness is cruelty with a different mask. It's quite strong what he's saying. And he gives us a very strong, just to see how Emmanuel was taking mediumship according to the teachings of the superior spirits. He was the spokesperson of them all, okay? If a malefactor places a stone on the railroad to derail the train, and an unprepared security guard forgets the rock or the rail, the effect is always the same. Meaning, if the person is being sloppy, there's no excuse like, oh, I didn't pay attention. It's so common, right? Oh, I didn't pay attention. I was so sloppy. I was so distracted. But the problem is the same. Whether a bad spirit came and created a confusion, or the confusion was created by our thoughtlessness, it's the same. Why is it the same? Because evil is the lack of good. So if we're not doing the good, we're doing evil. That's why he says it's the same. So being sloppy is not an excuse. I know Emmanuel is a wonderful educator. He doesn't play games. And that's why the mediumship of Chico Xavier was wonderful. Because he guided Chico and Chico obeyed. How many things you're going to read in the Bible since the Old Testament? The stories of men and women that were told by voices that they thought were God. Like Gideon. Go, Gideon, go to the city, bring 300 men, and fight to create the harmony that I need. And he obeyed, and things happened. When they didn't obey, things got worse. The problem is, are we being obedient? But majority of people on earth are still very rebellious, still very immature. It's their way, not the way of God. And that's why it's hard for the superior spirits to guide us. Not because they can't, but because we don't facilitate enough. Sunshine is asking the name of the book. That's a good question, but I can tell you right away. It's supposed to be in the website of the Spiritist Side of Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. That's where we had it before. And I'm gonna get the book here because that book is short, but it's to the point regarding spirit counseling. Besides the one that Teresa Castro is asking about, and it's gonna be my homework to really read that book. And work upon it. So the book that we mention is Getting to the Light, Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits by Nilson de Souza Pereira. Getting to the Light, Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits. Okay, it's short, but to the point. Study the book and you extract elements of the practical tools on it. But besides it all, he says mediums and mediumship will be able to give you great services. But in order to act with security and correctness in the service that you need, they also need security and correction on your part. So aren't you happy to know that you're important? You're important. No, yes, you are. Your part is essential. And that's beautiful. It's an honor for us. So I say thank you. What an honor to know that we are expected to sum up into this mix of goodness. We are not neutral, friends. Let's not forget, in the universe, there's good and evil. Not only Spiritism says that, even psychology talks about the force of life, the force of death. Freud said about that, the impulse of life and the impulse of death. It's about the law of construction, the law of destruction. They both have a role, but when we're talking about mediumistic practice, we have only one way, which is connecting to the mental current of constructiveness. There is no neutrality, like I'm gonna be here just watching, just listening. Who am I? You're a child of God. You're expected to do your part. So the question again for us, homework. In the next 24 hours, how can I calibrate myself better and bring more security and more alignment, more balance to the mix of our meeting? How can we? Right, friends? Right, Rosemary? Jacis, how are you? Sunshine, how are you? Hey, Alan Cortez, how are you, my friend? Teresa Castro, thank you, Teresa, for this beautiful reminder of the book Diary of the Counselor. Rita de Cássia, Merry Christmas to you. Nora Brasil, how are you? Carrie Smith and Mark Smith, how are you? John De Rosa, how are you? Lea Severo, good to have you here. Ceissa, beautiful Ceissa. Adilson, how are you? Paula Giovanna, how are you? Teresa Catapano. Angelita, Fraternity Without Borders, right? Yes, Sol Souza, beautiful sun. Karina Alice, I'm gonna watch, listen to the talk by Jairson, okay, Karina? I'll get to that. Thank you for sharing. Leandro Almeida, how are you, Leandro? Teresa Filizola, how wonderful to have you here, huh? On this beautiful Christmas day. Yes. And Rihanna and Nico and Katia. Can't believe Katia is here with us. What a joy, Katia. Yes, we're in this big classroom. It feels good to be together, right, Carol? Yes, I agree. I agree. Yes, the homework is wonderful. So what is the homework? The homework is to check how we can calibrate our part. How can we correct ourselves better? So, you know, instruments need to be tuned. Let us tune ourselves. Yeah? Tune it up and see how we can better adjust. Cleansing, opening up, because Christmas Day is about our part. Because Jesus did his and still does. What about us? Tomorrow, when we come back, what's going to happen? We're going to go deeper. Chapter 37. It's stronger. You ready? Chapter 37 is going to be about spiritist duty. Ay, ay, ay. I cannot believe it. There is a duty. I thought spiritism was about rights. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's about duty. And he says here, as a teaser, Kardec affirmed that the elevated spirits connect to us, connect to those who seek to instruct themselves. And those who seek to instruct themselves, they choose the pathway of maximum effort. Am I in or out? Am I in or out, my friends? What do you think? Come back. But I'm going to wrap up with a prayer because this is Christmas Day. And some people have already written saying, Vanessa, can you do another prayer on Christmas Day? Of course. Not only me, we do together. Okay? Before I play a music so we can have some background for our beautiful prayer, our collective prayer. Let me read here. Rosemary says, even Star Wars builds its entire storyline on top of dark and light side. And it was beautiful to see in the movie that no matter how deep you are in darkness, there is always a new opportunity offering your redemption and a path to go back into the light. Thank you, Rosemary. And you're so right. There is always an opportunity. Nobody's doomed to the darkness. Nobody. And if you doubt it, read the book Liberation by André Luiz through Chico Xavier. Because there we're going to see a spirit, Gregorio, who is deeply leading forces of darkness and his change of heart. It's not easy, but it happens. Right? So how about if we pray? If we pray especially for those who are feeling like they're doomed to be in the dark. Would you like to join us? Let us talk about the importance of collective prayer. Collective prayer is important because we're summing forces. But it only happens when we are on the same page. If I think of something, you think of something, blah, blah, it doesn't work. Collective is like same thoughts, intentions, and feelings. How do we do it if we're so different? By following the person that is leading the prayer word by word without judgment, just following through. Somebody said, Dear God, we say, Dear God, inside of ourselves. We don't judge, we just go with it. You ready? Yes? The name of the book again, Getting to the Light, Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits by Nilson Pereira Souza. If you go to the bookstore of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, ssbaltimore.org, you're going to find it, okay? Shall we pray? I'm going to invite you to pray, and this is how we're going to end our program today on Christmas Day. For those who are ready on a new day, beautiful day for you too. Okay, I'm just opening here so we can have some music background and feel the joy of collective prayer. Shall we? You can close your eyes if you're not driving. If you're driving, keep it open. But join the spirit of, okay? Yep, it looks like, okay, it's coming. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. It's almost there. Okie dokie. Let's see if it comes. Meanwhile, let's not forget that this book is coming about in English as we speak. So if you try to find a Medium's Harvest in English, it's not published yet, but it will. Okay? So let's go here. You know, YouTube has beautiful ads. Beginning. Right now, let us feel the presence of the Christ in our hearts. And let us recall of His simplicity, His humility. And the humility of Chico Xavier, following the steps of the Master. Though steady in his pathway, in his steps, Chico never lost sight of his needed humility. And you know, Jesus, that we're just learning, and we love to learn with you. We postponed for so long this learning experience, but finally in this life, we want to give a solid step towards instructing ourselves and feeling the responsibility that our part has in the part of the sum of everyone. So first of all, we'd like to say how much we would like to apologize for our stumbling steps, for our vanity, totally unnecessary, for that indignation that we've come to know as totally unnecessary, and the lack of compassion. Forgive us, Master. We no longer want to disturb your works. On the contrary, would like to help in the silence of our daily actions. Do not allow us, Master, to play the trumpet of our ego and call the attention to ourselves. But let us work with you and feel the joy in spite of recognition, in spite of impediments. May we walk with you every day in the daily activities, no matter how small, but caring for other hearts that we encounter. It doesn't matter if they are not millions of hearts, but one heart that smiles, feeling your healing touch through our imperfect connection. Please bless each and every one who is here connected at this moment, whether live or on demand. May everyone feel more encouraged to do their part sooner than later, and so be it. Thank you, friends. And tomorrow, it's about Spirit's duty. Let's see what Emmanuel tells us and how he leads us into a new understanding. We can feel that this is a true training that Emmanuel is giving us, because the Spirit certainly needs more than ever helping hands, willing hands, and good hearts. Thank you, friends, and until tomorrow.